The stars glittered like diamonds against the void as the U.S. Defiant approached the neutral meeting point. Commander Alan Carter watched the main view screen with steady eyes that betrayed none of his inner tension. After decades of searching the stars, humanity had finally found other intelligent life. The Galactic Hegemony, they called themselves. "Hegemony vessel approaching, sir," said Officer Greg Foster from his console. "They're matching our speed." Carter nodded. "Open communications when they come within range." This meeting would shape humanity's future among the stars. 5 years ago, humans had begun establishing colonies on nearby habitable planets. Just 3 months ago, they had discovered they weren't alone. The Hegemony ship grew larger on the view screen. It had an organic look, with curved lines, and a blue-green hull that seemed to shimmer. It dwarfed the Defiant by at least 4 times. "They're hailing us, Commander," said Foster. "On screen," Carter ordered, straightening his uniform. The alien face that appeared shocked even the most prepared crew members. The Arcturian representative had 6 eyes arranged in a circle around a central mouth. Its skin was pale blue and seemed to pulse slightly with each breath. "Greetings, humans," it said, its translator producing flat, emotionless English. "I am Supreme Coordinator Volk of the Galactic Hegemony. On behalf of Earth and all human colonies, I welcome you," said Carter with a small bow. "I am Commander Alan Carter of the United Earth Fleet." The meeting proceeded to the designated space station, where representatives from both sides gathered around a circular table. Dr. Olivia Wright, Earth's foremost xenobiologist, sat to Carter's right. Her eyes sparkled with excitement even as she maintained her professional demeanor. "The hegemony consists of 7 species who have achieved harmony through proper hierarchy," explained Volk. 2 other aliens flanked him, one with 4 arms and green scales, another short and stocky with gray skin that looked like stone. "Humans value individual freedom and cooperation between equals," Carter responded. "We hope to learn from your experiences in space." The Arcturian's eyes blinked in sequence. "Equals? There are no equals in space, Commander. There are those who lead and those who follow." Wright whispered to Carter, "Be careful. I think they interpret directness as challenging their authority." Carter nodded slightly. "We mean no disrespect. Humans are new to the galactic community and eager to find our place." "Your place will be determined by your usefulness and obedience," said the stone-skinned alien. Carter felt his face flush, but kept his voice steady. "Humans don't respond well to demands for obedience. We prefer mutual respect." The meeting deteriorated from there. Every human statement seemed to offend the hegemony representatives. When Wright tried to explain human social structures, Volk cut her off mid-sentence. "You speak out of turn, female," the Arcturian said. "Your leader should control his subordinates better." Carter stood up. "Dr. Wright is not my subordinate. She is an expert whose opinion I value." "This meeting is over," Volk announced suddenly. "Your species requires evaluation." Without further explanation, the hegemony representatives left. Carter and Wright exchanged worried glances. 3 days later, the research outpost on Europa went silent. Hours afterward, the emergency beacon activated, broadcasting images of hegemony warships firing on the defenseless station. The message that followed was brief. "The human species has been evaluated and found disruptive to galactic harmony. Submit to hegemony control or face extinction." Within a week, 2 outer colonies fell to hegemony forces. Earth scrambled to organize its defenses, but the Terran fleet was small compared to the massive hegemony armada. 6 months later, humanity was losing badly. Their ships were outgunned, their tactics ineffective against the advanced technology of the hegemony. 3 more colonies had fallen, and Earth itself was preparing for possible invasion. In a secret facility orbiting Jupiter, the U.S. Defiant underwent its final upgrades. It was humanity's most advanced ship, incorporating experimental technology and weapons systems that might give humans a fighting chance. As engineers worked frantically to complete the modifications, a shuttle arrived carrying the ship's new captain. The war had begun with the Defiant. Perhaps it would end with her too. Captain Lisa Rodriguez walked through the corridors of the U.S. Defiant, nodding to crew members who stopped to salute her. 6 months of war had left its mark on everyone. Dark circles under eyes, tight expressions, and the too quick movements of people living on borrowed time. Rodriguez had not expected this command. When Commander Carter was injured in the Battle of Proxima Centauri, she had been the logical choice to replace him. Her record was spotless, her tactical skills unmatched. But she knew the real reason she stood on this ship now. She was willing to take risks others wouldn't. She entered the bridge and all eyes turned to her. "Captain on deck," announced Lieutenant Jack Miller, a tall man with a scar running down his left cheek. As tactical officer, he had earned a reputation for strategies that defied conventional military doctrine. At ease, Rodriguez said. She looked around at her new crew. "Status report." Dr. Samantha Wells, the ship's xenobiologist, stepped forward. Her blonde hair was pulled back in a tight bun, her blue eyes sharp with intelligence. "The upgrades to the sensor array are complete, Captain. They can now detect the specific biological signatures of all 7 hegemony species." Chief Engineer Paul Nichols looked up from his console. His hands were stained with grease, evidence of his hands-on approach to the ship's systems. "Shadow drive is operational, Captain. Not tested in combat, but the simulations look promising. We should be able to move undetected through hegemony space." Communications Officer Kate Palmer, a petite woman with short brown hair, added, "I've modified our translation systems based on intercepted hegemony communications. We should be able to understand their tactical orders in real time now." Rodriguez nodded, taking in all the information. The Defiant was humanity's most advanced ship, but it was still just one vessel against a vast enemy fleet. "Captain," said Miller, "Command has transmitted our mission orders. They're waiting in your ready room." Rodriguez nodded and moved to the small office adjacent to the bridge. The message from Fleet Admiral Johnson was brief and grim. Earth's defenses were failing. The Mars colony had fallen 3 days ago. The Defiant was to undertake a reconnaissance mission deep into hegemony territory, gather intelligence on their weaknesses, and return with anything that might help turn the tide. It was a suicide mission in all but name. When she returned to the bridge, her crew could read the news on her face. "We leave in 6 hours," she announced. "Our mission is to penetrate hegemony space, gather tactical intelligence, and return." "Return?" Miller raised an eyebrow. "That's ambitious." "I know what Command expects," Rodriguez said, "but I didn't join Starfleet to die gloriously. I joined to win." The crew exchanged glances. There had been precious little winning in this war. As the final preparations were made, Rodriguez met with her senior officers in the conference room. Tactical displays showed the grim reality. Earth surrounded by approaching hegemony fleets, colonies falling one by one. "The problem isn't just their technology," said Wells, displaying biological scans of the various hegemony species. "It's their unity. 7 species acting as one." "That could be a weakness," Miller suggested. "Anything that acts as one can be disrupted." Nichols nodded, his eyes lighting up. "If we could find a way to break their communication network." "First we need to understand it," said Palmer. "Each species must have its own way of thinking, its own priorities." Rodriguez studied the displays. The Defiant isn't just a warship. It's a research vessel, an intelligence gatherer, and the most advanced ship humans have ever built, added Nichols with pride. As the meeting concluded, the ship's alert system activated. They were ready to depart. Rodriguez took her place in the captain's chair. "Prepare for shadow drive activation. Our mission begins now." The Defiant slipped away from the Jupiter shipyard, its outline blurring as the experimental drive engaged. In moments, it had vanished completely from all sensors. Earth's last hope was now behind enemy lines. The U.S. Defiant drifted silently through hegemony space. The shadow drive worked better than anyone had expected. For 3 days, they had moved undetected past patrol ships and sensor arrays. On the bridge, Captain Rodriguez studied the star chart. They were deep in enemy territory now. "Captain, we're picking up a transmission," said Officer Palmer from her communication station. "It's on a local frequency." "Can you decode it?" Rodriguez asked. Palmer nodded, her fingers moving quickly across her console. "It's an order for all ships to gather at these coordinates." She sent the location to the main screen. "Some kind of ceremony." Lieutenant Miller leaned forward, "Or an opportunity for us to gather intelligence on multiple ships at once." Rodriguez considered this. "How long until the gathering?" 6 hours, Palmer replied. "Set course," Rodriguez ordered. "Minimum power to the shadow drive. We don't want to leave any energy signature." The Defiant changed direction, moving slowly toward the coordinates. As they approached, sensors detected a small planet with a single large settlement. "Looks like a mining colony," said Miller, reviewing the sensor data. "Inhabited by a non-hegemony species." Dr. Wells joined them at the main view screen. "The Tellarans. They were conquered about 50 years ago, according to hegemony records we captured. They're used primarily as labor." The scene below confirmed her words. The Tellarans, tall, thin beings with gray skin, worked in long lines, carrying heavy containers under the watch of armed hegemony guards. "Something's happening," said Miller, pointing to a gathering in the central square. "They're bringing someone out." On the screen, they watched as a Tellaran was dragged to a raised platform. A hegemony official read from a tablet while the crowd was forced to watch. Palmer listened through her earpiece. "The Tellaran is accused of sabotage and inciting rebellion." They watched in horror as the Tellaran was executed before the silent crowd. "This isn't just a war," Rodriguez said quietly. "It's oppression on a galactic scale." Suddenly, alarms blared through the ship. "We've been scanned by something powerful," Nichols reported from engineering. "The shadow drive can't completely mask us from it." "Evasive maneuvers," ordered Rodriguez. "Get us behind that moon." The Defiant moved swiftly, but not before a small hegemony patrol ship spotted them. "They're following us," Miller reported. "One ship, scout class." Rodriguez made a quick decision. "We can't let them report our position. Prepare to engage." The Defiant swung around, weapons ready. But before they could fire, the hegemony ship sent a message. "Please," came a voice over the comm system. "We are not loyal to the hegemony. We seek asylum." Rodriguez hesitated, then nodded to Palmer. "Open a channel." The face that appeared on screen was Tellaran. "I am Zoran, captain of this vessel. We stole it to escape the mines. We saw your ship. It's unlike any hegemony design." "We're from Earth," Rodriguez replied cautiously. Zoran's eyes widened. "The new species that defy the Arcturians. The hegemony speaks of you with fear." "Fear?" Miller looked surprised. "They're winning the war. Not as easily as they expected." Zoran replied. "May we come aboard? We have information that might help you." After careful security scans, Zoran and 3 other Tellarans were brought to the conference room. Their thin bodies showed signs of hard labor and poor nutrition. "The hegemony is not as united as they appear," Zoran explained. "The Arcturians control the other species through fear and technology. Many serve unwillingly." Dr. Wells studied the Tellarans with interest. "You mentioned technology. How do they maintain control?" Zoran touched a metal collar around his neck. "These contain tracking devices and can deliver pain. All conquered species wear them, but the control goes deeper. The Arcturians use a specific frequency to coordinate their fleets. It has a calming effect on most species, making them easier to command." Chief Engineer Nichols leaned forward. "A specific frequency. Can you identify it?" "Better," said Zoran. "I can show you where they generate it. The Arcturian command hub in this sector. It's lightly defended because no one has ever attacked it before." Rodriguez looked at her officers, seeing the same thought in their eyes. This was exactly the kind of intelligence they had been sent to find. "Show us," she said. The Arcturian command hub floated in space like a giant blue crystal. It spun slowly, catching light from the nearby star and scattering it in beautiful patterns. 5 hegemony ships patrolled around it, their movements precise and coordinated. From the safety of a nearby asteroid field, Captain Rodriguez and her crew observed the facility through the Defiance sensors. Their defense pattern is perfect, Lieutenant Miller said, studying the patrol routes. Too perfect. They move like machines, not thinking beings. Zoran nodded. The Arcturians value order above all else. Their ships follow the same patterns every day. Dr. Wells looked up from her datapad. I've been analyzing the biological samples Zoran provided. The Arcturians have an unusual nervous system. Their 6 eyes aren't just for seeing. They detect patterns in electromagnetic energy. That explains a lot, said Rodriguez. Their need for order, their precise movements. And it gives us our first real advantage, Wells continued. Their biology makes them extremely sensitive to certain sound frequencies. The right tone could be painful or even disabling to them. Chief Engineer Nichols had been quiet, but now he spoke up. I think I can modify our communication array to broadcast on those frequencies. If we combine that with the disruption of their command signal, we could break their control over the other species, finished Rodriguez. Palmer looked concerned. Captain, this is bigger than our mission. We were ordered to gather intelligence and return to Earth. Rodriguez looked at the command hub on the screen, then at her crew. Earth may not exist by the time we get back. This is our chance to do more than gather information. We could strike a real blow against the hegemony. It would be dangerous, Miller warned. We'd have to get close enough to broadcast both signals. And we'd need to escape afterward, added Nichols. Rodriguez turned to Zoran. If we succeeded, would other subjugated species join us? The Telleran's eyes showed a mix of hope and fear. Many would, if they believed victory was possible. But the Arcturians have ruled for centuries. Most have forgotten how to fight. Sometimes you just need to show people that resistance is possible, Rodriguez said. She made her decision. We'll put it to a vote. This goes beyond our orders. I won't force anyone to take this risk. The vote was unanimous. Even Palmer, who had expressed concerns, voted to proceed. For the next 2 days, they prepared. Nichols and his engineering team worked around the clock to modify the ship's systems. Wells and Zoran provided crucial information about Arcturian biology. Miller developed a tactical plan that used the predictable patrol patterns against the hegemony ships. The command hub broadcasts on this frequency, explained Zoran, showing them a data readout. It keeps all hegemony ships synchronized and subdues any resistance in subject species. Nichols examined the data. We can jam it, but only for a short time before their systems adapt. That gives us a small window, said Rodriguez. We'll need to strike fast and hard. On the 3rd day, they were ready. The plan called for them to approach using the shadow drive, then launch a surprise attack on the command hub while broadcasting the disruptive frequency to incapacitate any Arcturians. One more thing to consider, said Dr. Wells as they prepared for the mission. Our scans show the command hub houses over 2,000 Arcturians, plus members of other species who serve them. What we're planning could kill many of them. Rodriguez was silent for a moment. Are there civilians on the station? Zoran shook his head. Only military and government officials. But many of the other species there are slaves or servants. Modify the plan, Rodriguez ordered. We target only critical systems, and we broadcast a warning to the non-Arcturians first, telling them to get to safety. That will alert the Arcturians, Miller pointed out. Yes, Rodriguez agreed, but we're not fighting to become like them. We're fighting to be better. She stood up straight. Stations everyone. We move in 1 hour. As the crew prepared for battle, Rodriguez returned to her quarters. She recorded a brief message to be sent to Earth if they didn't survive. Then she put on her uniform jacket and returned to the bridge. The Defiant's shadow drive engaged, and they moved silently toward the command hub. The U.S. Defiant slipped between the patrol ships like a ghost. Their shadow drive working perfectly, they approached the command hub undetected. The blue crystal structure grew larger on their view screen. "All stations report ready," said Lieutenant Miller. His hands moved across the tactical console, preparing weapon systems. "Communications ready," added Palmer. "Warning message recorded for non-Arcturian personnel." Captain Rodriguez nodded. "On my mark. 3, 2, 1, mark." The Defiant suddenly became visible as the shadow drive powered down. Before the patrol ships could react, Palmer broadcast the warning message to all non-Arcturians on the command hub. "Attention all non-Arcturian personnel. This is the Earth ship U.S. Defiant. We are attacking Arcturian control systems in 5 minutes. Move to safety areas immediately. This is not an attack on you. Repeat, move to safety areas now." Alarms blared across the command hub. The patrol ships turned, finally noticing the human vessel. "They're powering weapons," reported Miller. "Evasive pattern Delta," ordered Rodriguez. "Target their engines only." The Defiant moved with surprising speed, firing precise shots that disabled 2 patrol ships before they could respond. The other 3 ships coordinated their attack, firing energy beams that rocked the human vessel. "Shields at 80%, called Nichols from engineering. Ready to broadcast the disruptive frequency." Rodriguez waited until the Defiant had circled behind the command hub. "Now, Mr. Nichols." A high-pitched tone filled the Defiant's bridge as the ship broadcast the frequency that Dr. Wells had identified. On the command hub's visual feed, they saw Arcturians doubling over in pain, their 6 eyes blinking rapidly. "It's working," said Wells. "Their nervous systems can't handle the frequency." The remaining patrol ships began moving erratically, their perfect formation breaking apart as the Arcturian commanders lost control. "Their coordination is gone," said Miller with a smile. "They're flying like drunk pilots." The Defiant pressed its advantage, disabling the weapons on 2 more patrol ships. But the final ship managed to score a direct hit on the human vessel's port side. "Damage report," called Rodriguez as the ship shuddered. "Port shield generators offline," Nichols reported. "Shadow drive damage. We've got hull breaches on decks 3 and 4. Rodriguez gripped her chair as another hit rocked the ship. "Target their weapons and engines. Fire when ready." The Defiant and the last patrol ship circled each other, exchanging fire. The human ship was more agile but had already sustained damage. The patrol ship was larger and had stronger weapons. "We need to end this quickly," Rodriguez said. "Mr. Miller, do you still have that unorthodox maneuver you mentioned during training?" Miller nodded. "The Newton swing. It's never been tried in combat." "Today seems like a good day for firsts," said Rodriguez. "Do it." Miller took manual control of the ship, sending it into a tight arc around the nearby moon. Using the moon's gravity, he accelerated the Defiant to incredible speed, then cut engines just as they came around. The ship went dark for 3 seconds, drifting on its momentum. The patrol ship lost track of them, searching in the wrong direction. When the Defiant's systems came back online, they were directly behind the enemy vessel. "Fire," ordered Rodriguez. The Defiant's weapons struck the patrol ship's engines, disabling it completely. The path to the command hub was now clear. "Broadcast the jamming signal," Rodriguez commanded. Palmer activated the second modified signal. Almost immediately, they could see the effect. The command hub's external lights flickered. Communication between the hub and remaining hegemony forces cut off. "We've done it," said Palmer. "Their control signal is down." But the victory was short-lived. The command hub had defenses of its own. Energy turrets emerged from the crystal structure, targeting the Defiant. "Evasive maneuvers," shouted Rodriguez. The Defiant twisted away, but not before taking multiple hits. The ship lurched violently, and several consoles exploded in showers of sparks. "Critical damage to starboard engines," reported Nichols, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Weapons systems at 40%. Rodriguez looked at the command hub on the screen. They had disrupted its control signal, but hadn't destroyed its ability to fight back. And now the Defiant was badly damaged, with no way to escape quickly. "Options?" she asked her crew. Miller looked up from his damaged console. "We still have one torpedo left, if we can get close enough to their central control room." Rodriguez understood. It was time for another gamble. The bridge of the U.S. Defiant was filled with smoke. Emergency lights cast red shadows across the faces of the crew. Captain Rodriguez wiped blood from a cut on her forehead as she considered their options. "We can't run," she said, "and we can't win in a straight fight. So we changed the game." She turned to Communications Officer Palmer. "Open a channel to all hegemony ships in the area." Palmer looked surprised, but followed the order. "Channel open, Captain." Rodriguez stood tall despite the chaos around her. "Attention hegemony forces. This is Captain Lisa Rodriguez of the Earth ship U.S. Defiant. You've noticed by now that your command frequencies are jammed. The Arcturian control over your ships and your minds is temporarily broken." The Defiant shook as another hit struck its hull. "Keep us moving," Rodriguez told Miller, then continued her broadcast. "Look at how the Arcturians treat those who serve them. They force obedience through technology and fear. Humans believe in freedom, for ourselves and for all intelligent species." On a nearby screen, they could see the command hub continuing to fire, but something else was happening. Several of the damaged hegemony patrol ships had stopped attacking. One was turning toward the command hub. "It's working," whispered Zoran, who had remained on the bridge to provide tactical advice. Dr. Wells moved closer to the captain. "The disruption of the control frequency is allowing them to think for themselves. Many of these species have been under Arcturian control for generations." Rodriguez nodded and continued her broadcast. "You have a choice now. Continue fighting for your oppressors, or join us in creating a galaxy where all species determine their own future." Another hegemony ship turned its weapons toward the command hub. Then another. On the main screen, a new face appeared. An Arcturian commander, his 6 eyes blinking rapidly in what they now recognized as extreme agitation. "This is Supreme Controller Malvik of the Galactic Hegemony. Your primitive attempt at rebellion will fail. Our control systems will reset in minutes, and all traitors will be executed." Rodriguez met his gaze calmly. "Your empire is built on fear and control, not loyalty. That makes it vulnerable." "Insolent human," hissed Malvik. "You have lost. Your ship is crippled. Earth will fall within days. A battle fleet is already on its way to your homeworld." Zoran gasped at this news, but Rodriguez didn't flinch. "Mr. Nichols," she called to her engineer, "how long until they restore their control frequency?" 3 minutes at most, Captain," he replied from his damaged console. Rodriguez turned back to the screen. "Supreme Controller, I'm offering you a choice. Order your fleet to stand down, or we will destroy your command hub." Malvik's laughter was cold. "With what? Your weapons are nearly depleted. Your ship can barely move." "Lieutenant Miller," Rodriguez said without taking her eyes off the Arcturian, "target their central control chamber with our last torpedo." "Target locked," Miller confirmed. "Your single torpedo cannot penetrate our defenses," Malvik said with confidence. Rodriguez allowed herself a small smile. "Perhaps not normally, but our engineer has modified it with something special." She nodded to Nichols, who explained, "We've calibrated it to emit the same frequency currently disabling your people, but at 100 times the intensity. When it detonates, the effect on Arcturian physiology will be severe." For the first time, uncertainty flickered across Malvik's alien features. "You're bluffing," he said, but his voice lacked conviction. "We've studied your biology," said Dr. Wells, stepping forward. "The pain would be unbearable. Not lethal to most, but you would wish it was." Rodriguez kept her voice level. "I don't want to cause that kind of suffering, but I will to protect Earth and to free the species you've enslaved." The Defiant shuddered as another hit struck its hull. "Shields failing," reported Miller. "It's now or never, Captain." Around the command hub, More hegemony ships had stopped fighting. Some had actually formed a protective screen around the damaged Defiant. "Final warning, Supreme Controller," said Rodriguez. "Stand down your forces, or we fire." The bridge fell silent as they waited for Malvik's response. The future of Earth, perhaps of the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The Arcturian's 6 eyes blinked in sequence. Then, almost imperceptibly, he nodded. Supreme Controller Malvik's voice was tight with anger as he spoke. "Hold your fire. I will. Consider your demands." "Not good enough," Rodriguez replied firmly. "Order your fleet to stop the attack on Earth immediately." The bridge crew of the Defiant held their breath. The damaged ship couldn't survive much longer, but Rodriguez showed no fear as she stared at the Arcturian leader. Malvik's 6 eyes blinked rapidly. "You are in no position to make demands. Look around you," Rodriguez said, gesturing to the view screen showing several hegemony ships now protecting the Defiant. "Your empire is falling apart before your eyes. How many of your subject species will turn against you once they know freedom is possible?" 2 minutes until they restore the control frequency, Nichols warned quietly. Rodriguez nodded. "Your time is running out, Supreme Controller. So is ours. Make your choice." On the screen, they could see Malvik conferring with other Arcturians. The alien leader seemed genuinely confused by the situation. In his thousands of years of existence, no one had ever challenged the hegemony this way. "Very well," Malvik finally said. "I will order a temporary ceasefire." "Not temporary," Rodriguez countered. "And I want proof the order has been sent." Palmer spoke up from her console. "Captain, I'm picking up a transmission from the command hub to all hegemony vessels. They're ordering all ships to stand down and return to base, including the fleet heading to Earth." Rodriguez pressed. Malvik's anger was visible even through his alien features. "Yes, all ships." Rodriguez turned to Palmer. "Confirm." After a tense moment, Palmer nodded. "The order includes the Earth attack fleet. They've acknowledged and are changing course." A cheer went up from the bridge crew, quickly silenced by Rodriguez's raised hand. "This is just the beginning, Controller Malvik. Now we negotiate peace terms." "Peace," Malvik hissed. "You have won a small victory through trickery. The hegemony has ruled for 10,000 years. We will not be defeated by a single ship." Lieutenant Miller whispered to Rodriguez, "Captain, I don't think he believes we're alone out here. He thinks this is part of a larger human strategy." Rodriguez realized Miller was right. The Arcturians couldn't comprehend that one ship would dare challenge their entire empire. She decided to use this misconception. "Our terms are simple," she said. "The hegemony will recognize Earth and all human colonies as sovereign territory. All subject species will be given the choice of independence, and the control technology you use to dominate other species will be dismantled." "Impossible," Malvik shouted. "The hegemony maintains order in the galaxy. Without our guidance, there would be chaos." Dr. Wells stepped forward. "Your definition of order is control. There are better ways for species to coexist." Zoran moved to stand beside the humans. Many worlds would welcome freedom, even with its challenges. Rodriguez watched as doubt spread across Malvik's face. The once confident leader was experiencing something new. The fear of losing power. 1 minute until control frequency restoration, Nichols called out. "Decide now," Rodriguez told Malvik. "Peace on our terms, or we destroy your command center and let the rebellion spread naturally. Either way, the hegemony as you know it ends today." Around them, the ship's systems flickered as power reserves dwindled. The Defiant couldn't maintain its threat much longer, but Malvik didn't know that. The Arcturian leader seemed to deflate. "Send your terms in full. I will present them to the High Council." "No," Rodriguez said firmly. "You accept now, or we end this our way." She nodded to Miller, who made a show of preparing the torpedo launch. "Wait," Malvik called. "I accept your terms. The hegemony will recognize human sovereignty and grant independence to any species that requests it. Palmer looked up from her console. He's broadcasting the acceptance to all hegemony ships and bases, Captain. A stunned silence fell over the bridge. They had done it. A single human ship had brought the mighty hegemony to its knees. Control frequency restart in 10 seconds, Nichols reported. It doesn't matter now, Rodriguez said with a tired smile. The message is out. The truth can't be contained again. On screens throughout the galaxy, beings of all species watched in amazement as the supreme controller of the Arcturian hegemony formally surrendered to a small, damaged ship called the Defiant. 3 weeks later, the U.S. Defiant limped into Earth orbit. Its hull was scared from battle, with patches and emergency repairs visible across its surface. As it approached the orbital station, a fleet of ships moved to escort it. Not just human vessels, but ships from formerly subjugated species who had come to honor the crew that changed galactic history. On the bridge, Captain Rodriguez stood at attention as she made her final log entry. U.S. Defiant, returning to Earth after completing our mission. The Hegemony Peace Accord has been signed. Earth is safe, and a new era of cooperation between free species has begun. Earth had changed in their absence. News of the Defiant's victory had reached home a week earlier, carried by faster hegemony communication relays. The once fearful population now celebrated in the streets. Humanity had not only survived, but had liberated dozens of oppressed civilizations. As the Defiant docked, Admiral Grant waited with an honor guard. The crew disembarked to cheers and applause. Rodriguez led them, walking tall despite her injuries. Behind her came Lieutenant Miller, Dr. Wells, Communications Officer Palmer, and Chief Engineer Nichols. Zoran and the other Tellarans followed, the first of their species to visit Earth. Captain Rodriguez, Admiral Grant said, saluting, "Earth owes you and your crew a debt we can never repay." Rodriguez returned the salute. "We only did what was necessary, Admiral." "You did the impossible," the Admiral corrected her. "One ship against an empire. And you won." Later that day, in a ceremony broadcast across Earth and to allied worlds, the crew of the Defiant received the highest honors their world could offer. But more meaningful to them were the messages from newly freed planets, thanking them for their courage. After the ceremony, Rodriguez found her crew gathered in a quiet room away from the celebrations. "What happens now?" asked Palmer, looking out at the stars visible through the window. "The galaxy changes," Rodriguez replied. "The Arcturians are keeping their word so far. The control technology is being dismantled. Ships are returning to their home worlds." "Not all species know how to govern themselves," Miller pointed out. "There will be challenges." Dr. Wells nodded. "Freedom isn't always easy, but it's better than slavery, no matter how comfortable the chains." Nichols raised a glass. "To the Defiant. She wasn't the biggest or strongest ship, but she had heart. And a damned good crew," added Rodriguez with a smile. Zoran approached them, his tall frame bowing slightly in respect. "My people have asked me to bring a message. For thousands of years, we believed we were alone against the hegemony. Now we know differently. The Tellorans wish to establish formal relations with Earth, as equals and friends. The first of many such relationships, I hope," Rodriguez said. A young officer entered the room and handed Rodriguez a datapad. She read it quickly, her expression growing serious. "What is it, Captain?" asked Miller. "I'm not a captain anymore," she replied. "I've been promoted to Admiral. And the Defiant is being repaired and upgraded to serve as the flagship of a new fleet, a peacekeeping force with representatives from all allied species." "And its crew?" asked Palmer. Rodriguez smiled. "That's our choice. We can return to normal duties or continue what we started," finished Miller. "Count me in." One by one, the others nodded their agreement. 2 months later, the U.S. Defiant left Earth orbit once more. Its hull gleamed with new armor, its systems enhanced with technology shared by grateful allies. On the bridge stood Admiral Rodriguez, surrounded by her trusted crew, now joined by officers from a dozen different species. Their mission was no longer about war or survival, but about building lasting peace. As the ship accelerated away from Earth, Rodriguez looked at the diverse faces around her. A human ship had shown the galaxy that freedom was possible. Now they would show what free people working together could accomplish. On the view screen, the stars beckoned. And this time, they traveled not in fear, but in hope. As the Defiant entered faster than light travel, its signature briefly appeared on Arcturian monitoring stations. Supreme Controller Malvik, now part of a reformed council that included all species, watched the signal fade. Even he had to admit that the galaxy was changing for the better. The hegemony had declared war. A single human ship had forced them to beg for peace. And now, that same ship led the way to a future brighter than any had imagined possible.